After a brutal week 2, where we went 6-10 in the money line, 1 for 5 in best bets, we try to bounce back today. I have 4 favorites. I have 1 dog. I was trying to take a second dog, but I just couldn't find the best value. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this Brains World on this Thursday, September 19th, 2024. You guys already know we are in collaboration with the one, the only Voltage Live. You know my social media links are in the description below. Without further ado, let's kick it off. Again, if you are new to the Brains World podcast, every Thursday I give every single money line pick for the week, and then I'll give you 5 games where I pick the spread. I call those my best bets. Last week, again, we went 6-10 in the money line. That puts us at 16-16, 500 on the year through week 2. We also went 1 for 5 in best bets. That puts us at 4 for 10 in best bets on the year. Last year for week 2, we were 3 games better than the money line at 19-13. We were 6 for 10 in best bets, so 2 better in best bets a year ago as opposed to this year. Let's bounce back. Patriots at the Jets. Now, this is something you guys know I rarely do, where I am picking the Jets to win. However, I am betting that they win by less than a touchdown. I'm taking New England plus the 6.5. I think it's a Thursday night. I think the way the Patriots defense has been sound. I think the way Jacoby Brissett has moved the ball has been decent. I think New England is going to be able to run the ball on the Jets. I think it's a short week. I think New England has the Jets number. Aaron Rodgers has not seen this Patriots defense yet. I think it's a bad spot for the Jets in their home opener, whose offense has not been humming. They barely escaped last week against the Tennessee Titans. And so, for that reason, again, New England going into the year, I think we all thought they were going to be one of, if not the worst team in the AFC. Hunter Henry has had a good year. Jacoby Brissett has not turned the football over a lot. Now, he's been conservative. And New England's defense has not gotten the turnovers last week against Seattle. They did week 1 against Cincinnati. We know New England is not going to be able to score a lot, but what they do is they play good defense and they stay in ball games. I just think 6.5 points is too many points. I'm taking the Jets to win, but New England to cover. I think it's a struggle bust night for Aaron Rodgers in the offense. I imagine this to be somewhere between 20-17. I also like the under in this game. I think it's a 41.5. Then we got my team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now they are at the New Orleans Saints. Now you guys know my rule, and I kind of broke it last week as I bet the Jacksonville Jaguars. I said this year I was going to try my hardest to stay away from betting my Philadelphia Eagles and my hometown, obviously, Cleveland Browns. Again, I did away with that last week. I thought Deshaun Watson was so bad, he kind of had to take Jacksonville, and then Deshaun Watson bounced back. I don't really know what I'm seeing. The one thing here is the Eagles were a 3-point favorite going into this game before the Atlanta Falcon game. And obviously, and we talked about the Monday night play on Tuesday's show. If you want to go back and either watch or listen to that, you can. But the Eagles went from essentially, you know, 3-point favorites to almost 3-point dogs. Some markets say it's 3 points here, and I think it's because the Eagles lost. The Saints have been playing so well. But again, the Saints, they beat up Carolina in week 1. What's that worth? We don't know. I think Dallas sort of took them lightly, and I don't think my Philadelphia Eagles are going to take them lightly. Now, my Eagles are struggling on the back end of this game. I'm very nervous about this game. Um, and I think without AJ Brown, I think there's something about this Eagles team that's like after what happened in week 2, this thing could fall off the tracks real quick, and the Philadelphia Eagles do not get a win here. They play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week. Baker Mayfield has had their number when he's been in Tampa, obviously. It's been a real struggle. We saw Philadelphia in the wild card game last year get blown out by the Bucs. We've seen how well Baker Mayfield play. And again, is this sustainable from Derek Carr? Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Rashid Shaheed. I think Quinn Kubiak's doing a great job as an offensive coordinator, but we don't know how for real the Saints are yet. This is a good test for my Eagles team. I think my team bounces back. Again, I'm not going to bet it. I don't know what the final score of this game will be. I think it's going to be a very tough physical game. Philadelphia will win a close one. Now, Giants at the Browns. I will say up front, I'm taking the Browns in Survivor this week, and I was debating, to be honest with you, again, I'm not going to break my own rules, so I'm not going to do it. But honestly, the Browns should blow the Giants out. I mean, the Giants are not very good offensively, but they did score 3 touchdowns last week against Washington. Now, this Browns defense is a lot better than the Commanders. I mean, if you shut down my weak neighbors, the Giants have no offense. And so with that in mind, the Browns should win, the Browns should cover. But I will say this again, 11 out of 15 games in week 2 were one possession games. And every team in the NFL covered but 4. And I think right now defense is winning early in the week, and the Browns offense struggled in the second half against Jacksonville, and the Giants are pretty good up front. That could be the difference in this game. If the Browns offensive line does not play well, the Giants pass rush gets home. This game could be closer than people think. Giants could pull off a low scoring upset. They certainly could cover as well. But I am going to pick the Browns here at home. This is the easiest game on their schedule the whole season. Now, you have the 2-0 Chargers, the 2-0 Steelers in Pittsburgh. And this is, the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh and that team going west to East Coast for the second straight week. They demolished Carolina in week 2. They beat up on the Raiders in week 1, who knows, they may be better than we think. Now, the Steelers, this is their home opener. So, they're going to be up for this game. They went down to Atlanta. They went down to Denver. They took advantage of a rookie quarterback. This is obviously a different situation with Justin Herbert, but he's not going to be throwing the football a lot. And this is going to be a good test for Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater and the Chargers offensive line to see how they block Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt coming off the edge. This is going to be a low scoring game. This is going to be a run the football game. This is going to be a game where whoever makes the least amount of mistakes will win the game. And I think the Steelers in their home opener, they know they need it. Again, we know the back half of their schedule was tough, and the Chargers defense has been very good this year. But I think if Justin Fields doesn't make mistakes, again, I think the Steelers are at home. I think the Chargers are young. I think Pittsburgh, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth may be the difference as opposed to Quentin Johnson and Len McKinstry and Josh Palmer and some of these young receivers the Chargers have. I'll take the Steelers at home. Then the next game, Denver at Tampa. Now, I will tell you, I was considering taking Denver plus 6.5, but it's a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, and we saw what Todd Bowles did to Jaden Daniels in week 1. I'm not making the same mistake again. Again, Denver's defense has been good. Week 1, they were actually pretty good against Seattle. They had a lead midway through the first quarter. Tampa, they've been out of this world. They shut down the Lions at 16 points. They dominated Washington. At some point, you would think they're going to regress back to the mean, but right now, Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr are the 2 MVPs of the league. And again, Patrick Surtain's very good on the outside. I think he's going to lock down Mike Evans. Do they have enough to lock down Chris Godwin? I don't know. Rashad White got hurt. How's that going to affect the run game for Tampa Bay? Again, I don't think Denver's going to be able to score a lot, which is why I'd be weary about this spread. I think there's a chance Denver makes this close. They cover the 6.5. There's also a chance here that Tampa's offense is just on fire, and this is one of those blowouts of the week. So, nervous here a little bit about the spread, which one I'm not going to take it, but I like Tampa in the money line. Next game, Bears at the Colts. This is a game that I'm going to best bet. I'm actually going to take Indy here, minus 1.5 to cover against Chicago. So this is my other theme here, right? I'm going to take a good defense in New England, who I think is getting too many points against the Jets on Thursday night. I look at this Bears-Colts game. And the Colts were a team that some people thought were going to win the AFC South this season, even over Houston, even over Jacksonville. The AFC South was supposed to be a very competitive division, and Jacksonville's 0-2, and Indy's 0-2, and Tennessee's 0-2. My big factor here is we saw how the Texans absolutely blitzed Caleb Williams last week on Sunday Night Football. Will Gus Bradley, who traditionally does not blitz, does he do so against Caleb Williams? Also, obviously, Matt Eberflus comes back to Indianapolis. Now, he was not there with Shane Steichen when Shane Steichen took over. And Anthony Richardson, quite frankly, did not look good last week. But I think Indianapolis walked into Green Bay. They thought they were just going to, roll over Malik Willis and win the game. They didn't really show up. I don't think they take the Bears lightly. I think this is a team with playoff aspirations. I think the Bears will get better throughout the year. That game winner against Tennessee was huge to be 1-1 in this situation instead of 0-2. So I will take Indianapolis, who I think is the more desperate team to cover the 1.5. Next game. Texans are only favored by 2.5 against the Vikings. If we find out Justin Jefferson is not playing, Jordan Addison is not playing, I will probably put this game in. I'll tell you which game I would swap out when we get to that game. But right now, if Justin Jefferson plays, I would not bet this game. I'll take Houston to win the game. I think their defense is going to fly out the ball. Danielle Hunter coming back to Minnesota, I think, is a motivating factor. And I don't know if the Vikings and Brian Flores are going to be able to rattle CJ Stroud the way they did Brock Purdy last week. I just think, Houston may have too many weapons. But again, I said the Vikings in the NFC North, everybody thought they were going to be a fourth place team, myself included. But I said there is a world where they're better than Chicago and they're even better than Green Bay and Sam Darnold as a Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith-esque year. And again, it's already coming to fruition. And I think even without Jefferson and Addison, because Kevin O'Connell is such a good offensive mind, they will probably still move the ball. I just would not feel comfortable about them winning the game. Next game, I'm going to take Green Bay minus 2.5. Now, this week, Malik Willis goes up against his former team in the Tennessee Titans. My question is, are the Titans going to be able to stop Malik Willis? And if they do, is Will Levis going to stop turning the football over? I think Green Bay, is going to rely on Will Levis turning the football over. I think Will Levis will make another mistake. I think there's already tension there that we talked about between Brian Callahan and Will Levis. This is an absolute mess of a game to me that I really don't want to bet, to be honest with you. I think that if we find out, Justin Jefferson's not playing and Minnesota doesn't have weapons, I'll take Houston over Minnesota instead of Green Bay. I'm already thinking about potentially switching that out. But I'm sort of playing it by ear right now. Now, this next game, as we go into the 4 o'clock window, I like the Raiders to beat the Panthers. But I'll say this, and to be honest with you, I don't want to be a laughing stock. I really don't have the courage of my conviction, because if I make this pick and it doesn't happen and it's a blowout, I will look like the biggest idiot in America. But there is a world where the Carolina Panthers knock off the Las Vegas Raiders this week. I believe Dave Canales, who is 0-2 as head coach, they made the move from Bryce Young to Andy Dalton because Dave Canales needs to save his locker room already. If you get blown out in 3 straight games to start the season, what does that mean for you as a head coach, your character, your message, your locker room? There are guys open in Carolina, and they don't have the worst skill positions in the world. I mean, Deontay Johnson is still there, Adam Thielen's still there, Hayden Hurst is still there. They got the rookie out of Ole Miss. I think Andy Dalton is going to find a way to get these guys the ball. I just don't know, man. If they're secondary, the thing that holds me up about picking Carolina outright is Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Michael Mayer, Brock Powers. We talked about this going into the offseason. If Gardner Minshew can get them the ball, the Raiders have weapons. And they put up 26 points last week on the Baltimore Ravens. Some weeks you get good Minshew, you get bad Minshew. I think Max Crosby could be a game wrecker here. And I do think the Raiders are going to win the game. But again, I think the Panthers will give you everything they have. Miami at Seattle. So last week I fell into the trap. Malik Willis couldn't play. Indianapolis is going to run all over Green Bay. That did not happen. I am worried here about the Seahawks, who should absolutely win this game. They should cover the 4.5. But this is the NFL, and it's any given Sunday. And while Skylar Thompson looked like he could not play, I need to see him in game action first in a real live game with a real week of prep with Mike McDaniel behind him. This is a good test for Mike McDaniel. I mean, we know Seattle has speed. We know, Miami has speed. We know Seattle does have speed as well on the outside with those defensive backs. So this is a real test for Mike McDaniel, right? See how he coaches without Tua. And I'm taking Seattle to win. Again, they should cover. This will more than likely be a blowout. But this is any given Sunday in this league. And defenses are winning games. And if Miami can hold Seattle down in the first half and stay in the game and get Skylar Thompson comfortable, look out. Don't be surprised completely if this is close or Miami wins the game outright. This next game, this may come as a little bit of a shock to you because I like Arizona. I said they were going to cover Buffalo week 1. They did. I was a little weary about the Rams game. I did not know how to bet that game. I said that. I didn't know with the Rams injury situation what the hell was going to happen. Arizona obviously destroyed them. And I think they are now on notice. And after the blunder that Dan Campbell had last week at the end of the first half, where the Lions were running a fire drill, get up to the line and spike it, the kicker was on the field. It's obviously a 10-second runoff penalty. Game over. There's a lot of heat on the Lions for the way they played against Tampa, and quite frankly, for the way they played against the Rams, because they should have lost that game. And for whatever reason, Jared Goff and the offense is struggling right now. They need a get right game, and this could be it. Again, I don't think Arizona is going to sneak up on people the way they did the first 2 weeks of the season. I think they're going to have Dan Campbell's attention. The Lions are a Super Bowl contender. They have a lot of pressure on them. They need to win this game. I think they do so, and I think that they do cover the 3 points. Though, again, Kyler Murray could have a special game and have an incredible game. I think this is one of the best games of the week in the 4 o'clock window. San Francisco at the Rams. I'm not going to bet it. I'm going to take San Francisco, but let me tell you something. The Niners, they don't have Christian McCaffrey. They don't have Deebo Samuel. Brock Purdy looks like a different quarterback. The only reason why this spread is 7.5, and the only reason why I'm taking the Niners is because the Rams don't have an offensive line to go up against that Niners defensive line, and both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are out. Look, the Rams are down to second and third stringers playing on the offense side of the ball, which is why they looked so bad last week against Arizona, and I don't think we all realized it until kickoff when the inactives were official. However, again, I think last week scared me a little bit, where we say the Niners should absolutely destroy the Rams, who are touchdown dogs. But Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, we know the rivalry those two coaches have. And Sean McVay gets a week to prep knowing that he's not going to have these guys. And he comes out with razzle dazzle. And the Rams, who are 0-2, are desperate to save their season. And they play their asses off and they cover, which is again a possibility. That's why in this week, to me, it's really interesting. There's some of these games, right? Giants, Browns, Niners, Rams, Dolphins, Seahawks, Broncos, Bucks. Some of these games that are, 5-point, 6-point spreads. Well, we saw last week essentially nobody besides Buffalo, Arizona, and the Saints were covering these spreads. And there's a world out there where these could all be blowouts. There's a world out there where all of them could be 3-point games, which is why I'm not touching any of them. Baltimore at Dallas. This is the game of the week. Obviously, Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady on Fox calling their third straight Dallas Cowboy game. Here's the deal. The Ravens are 0-2. Dallas is 1-1, but they got humiliated by the New Orleans Saints last week. Dallas cannot stop the run, which is a really concerning matchup when you're going against Derrick Henry. If the Baltimore Ravens will use number 22, which they have not for the first 2 weeks of the season. Dallas again was embarrassed last week at home. It was the biggest watch game in the 1 o'clock window, even though it was a 1 o'clock window with 10 games. When you get embarrassed, you bounce back and you play your best football the next week, which is why Dallas is going to give Baltimore everything they can handle. But the Ravens are a desperate ball club. They cannot fall to 0-3. They got Buffalo next week, even at home, or their season may spiral out of control. The next 2 weeks, they have Baltimore and they have Cincinnati. Excuse me, they have Buffalo and then they have Cincinnati. They have to win this game more than Dallas does, who has the Giants coming up on a Thursday night, I believe. So I'll take the Ravens to win and cover the 1.5. Kansas City at Atlanta. Boy, I almost thought of taking Atlanta plus 3.5 and maybe Atlanta outright. The way they won that game against Philadelphia, they have good momentum and their defense has played well. And the loss of Isaiah Pacheco, I think, is a bigger loss for Kansas City than most people realize because they are now a run first team. And again, as we know, right, Patrick Mahomes had the least amount of passing yards that he threw in his career week 2, and it took, essentially a missed extra point by Evan McPherson to win that game for Kansas City. So I think Atlanta, if they can get a little bit of pass rush on Mahomes, they can keep it close throughout the game. We'll see if Kansas City can get a rush on Kirk Cousins because the Atlanta offensive line played very well Monday night against Philadelphia. And, you know, is this going to be the Kyle Pitts game? Cincinnati threw to their tight ends more last week than they ever have under Joe Burrow. And Kyle Pitts needs to have a big year for the Atlanta Falcons, or he's officially considered a bust. We know how much Kirk Cousins loved using TJ Hawkinson in Minnesota. Let's hope he uses Kyle Pitts the right way in Atlanta because he is an extraordinary talent, in my opinion. They need to get that side of the offense going. This could be the game for it. Again, I think Kansas City pulls out something late, but I kind of have a sneaky suspicion Atlanta covers. I'm not touching this game. I think it's a very close game going down to the wire. Now, this is my upset of the week, and I have no courage in my conviction. I'll be the first one to admit it, so I'm not doing it. But I like Jacksonville to upset Buffalo on Monday night. They are dogs by 5.5. Again, I'm not betting it. I know what you're saying, Brandon. Then why are you picking Jacksonville? I don't have a reason, to be honest with you, besides the fact that they are 0-2. Trevor Lawrence looks bad. Buffalo's 2-0. That offense is resurged under OC Joe Brady. They're getting the football out. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Shahir, the receiver. They got Coleman, the rookie they're mixing in. James Cook has been great at back. Their defensive line and Oliver dominated that Miami offensive line last week. So Buffalo, for all the new pieces that they have, and we thought it was going to take time, they've seemingly fit in. And the Jaguars, they just look bad. Trevor Lawrence looks like 2020 Carson Wentz. It's like, here we go all over again for Doug Peterson. For whatever reason, Trevor Lawrence's confidence just looks shot. Jacksonville was 8-3 last year. Trevor Lawrence got hurt. They haven't won a game since. Think about that. That's a bigger collapse than even Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Jacksonville are all in the same boat where they're in these massive collapses. I actually think all three teams bounce back this week. If Jacksonville does not win this game, which they beat Buffalo last year in London, if you guys remember, that was the game after they beat Atlanta in London. If they fall to 0-3, especially if Houston beats Minnesota and Houston's 3-0, the Jaguars season, folks, may be over, which is why knowing the result of Monday night or Sunday's game is going to matter for Monday night. I like the Jags. Now, the Bengals. They're favored by 7.5 against the Commanders, and the Commanders don't have a great secondary, and we know the issue with Jamar Chase and his contract, but this is the game for Jamar Chase to break out. If he does not have a good game in this game, then I'm officially concerned about Jamar Chase moving forward. And spoiler alert for everybody in my fantasy league, if Jamar Chase does not have a good game, he is going on the trade block for me, especially if I fall to 0-3 this year. I felt like I drafted a really good fantasy team, and it may be the worst fantasy team of all time. Well, what the hell do I know? I'm just a guy on an independent podcast making picks and sounding like an idiot right now. Again, 7.5 points does feel a little too high. The Commanders could potentially cover. However, Jaden Daniels is a rookie quarterback in a primetime game, in his first primetime game. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are there. I think Lou Anarumo will give different looks. I think it could be a struggle this week for the Washington offense, who didn't even score a touchdown last week. They kicked 7 field goals to beat the hapless New York Giants. So Cincinnati will win the game. Again, I'm not going to bet it. To recap, my week 3 money line picks are: I have the Jets over New England, Philly over the Saints, Browns at home over the Giants, Pittsburgh at home over the Chargers, Tampa at home over Denver, Indy at home over Chicago, Houston on the road against Minnesota, Green Bay on the road against Tennessee, Seattle at home against Miami, Detroit on the road against Arizona, San Francisco on the road against the Rams, Baltimore on the road against Dallas, Kansas City on the road against Atlanta, Jags on the road against Buffalo, and Cincinnati at home against Washington. Reminder, both those Bills and Bengals games are Monday night games. There are 2 Monday night games this week. And now for my 5 best bets of week 3 of the 2024 NFL season. I like New England Thursday night to cover. Again, not win, just cover 6.5 against the Jets. I like Green Bay -2.5 against Tennessee. I like Indy -1.5 to cover at home against Chicago. Indianapolis is desperate. They need a win. I'll take the I'll take the Lions, my apologies, to cover the 3 points against Arizona. And then I'll take Baltimore to cover the 1.5 on a road. Similarly to Indianapolis, they are desperate. They need to win more than Dallas. I'll take them to cover the 1.5. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.